Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Kristie Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. Hi, Kristie.
Good morning, Maggie. How are you? And so I'm excited that we are on and we are able to kind of share about back to school and getting our kiddos ready and what are maybe some things that you might see and what are some helpful hints, both as for play therapists, but also for parents, teachers, school administrators, the whole 9 yards. So we're going to try to tackle all of those today.
Yeah, or in the subsequent sessions, we'll see how we can fit it. So, yeah. It's also interesting, and we talked about this when we were talking about depression in children and how sometimes just like having conversations can elevate our own reactions and nervous system. And I'm starting to feel nervous, and I feel my nervous system kicking on as I'm like, I think maybe too, it's so serendipitous because last night we had some kids' friends over, and they were all talking about teachers of who they wanted and who they didn't want. And so it's already happening, and we're still 3 weeks out. And I'm like, dear God, please, 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 please. And also, having the same conversations, this is disappointing, and you really wish that you could have that teacher. And there have been other people who really love other teacher, and maybe, what would that be for you for not having to be Rhodes' sister and just being Molly?
Yeah.
And so having those conversations, I think, is important too, not to make it better because we can't make it better. And that's not, they can handle those tough emotions and they can handle that frustration, but also like being able to explore other options as to what this could mean.
Oh, absolutely. So when do you start prepping your kids, Maggie?
Not soon enough. Thank you for reminding me to start.
No, I was because a lot of the literature you read will say, 2 weeks out.
I think it's really, there's no like hard definition for me. I mean, it's like so nuanced. And so I know my kids, and we have talked about it, I think probably since the last day of school, probably before the last day of school, right? Like for quite some time. Are there students that you really, really want to have in class that you feel like help you learn, right? Like, and that happens in March, that you start kind of filling in the teachers and stuff like that. And then you have to understand your kids. And I have two highly anxious children, which I'm like, golly day, apples fall from apple trees. I'm really sorry you couldn't be like dad who has like no stress whatsoever. And so like we have a lot of conversations. Like Molly got a new special teacher that she gets to see. Well, she got that for third grade, but now she's going to fourth grade, which means that she's going to have a different one, right? And so we talked about that as soon as she got the first one. Like, you love Miss Knox. Miss Knox is so cool. Next year, when you go upstairs, you're going to get, a different teacher. And how cool will that be that you get to meet someone new? And so having those kind of conversations and involving them in them, like the conversations with my son are very different. Like he was, I don't know if it relates, but we just try and have these conversations, and I try and include them and their perspectives, not in all of my decision making when it comes to school, but in some of it. But it's just like there's not a time. It just happens naturally as we explore, and I take cues from them.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is you're not waiting to the last minute, like the week before school starts or the night before school starts to have this. You're bringing it up as these conversations happen. So if they've been missing this teacher or you're highlighting what a special bond that teacher had, and you're excited to see, with the new teacher, what type of bond, kiddo's going to have with that.
Well, and I think also what my rambling was probably too, like I didn't think that I had been doing it. Right. I felt like I was the person who was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize like school does start in 3 weeks. Holy crap. This is faster than I anticipated. But then giving myself credit for any of the parents that are listening that you actually probably are doing these things without realizing that you've been doing them. And that's just kind of being in tune and relating to your kids in that way.
Yeah. And I think, having those natural conversations are important. And it may also be helpful to like start to think about a timeline of when you want to
Yeah.
start. Right. And so, like, yeah, maybe you're 3 weeks out, maybe you're a little longer, just depends on what school district you're in. But we encourage you to think about your kiddo. So, somewhere between like 2 to 6 to 8 weeks is the best time to start. The
Mm-hmm.
more anxious or the more difficult your child has, you may need to start earlier, which I know can feel scary to some parents because it's like such an eggshell
Right.
conversation. You feel like you're tiptoeing around, like a big angry beast. But those conversations are important just to acknowledge the feeling that the kiddo is having. And this is where, as a play therapist, I think we can be really helpful to parents about how you started to bring up school. I know you said it's a real touchy
Mm-hmm.
situation. What's
Yeah.
making you nervous? What support do you need? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those types of things so that kids can help transition the best way possible into the new school year.
And I think, yeah, it's important to kind of to continue to like bring it up and discuss it. I also think that maybe it's like 2 weeks out, maybe it's a week out, but I would certainly say before the weekend, before school starts, of like kind of getting back into like bedtime routine
Yeah.
and wake up routine. And because those can be very loose in the
Mhm.
summer. And so like kind of getting them back on that schedule. So it's not Sunday night and it's like 10 o'clock and they don't want to go to bed and then they wake up and they feel right. Because what you don't want is them, especially like kids who, struggle, whether it be like anxiety or ADHD or whatever, like that rushing in the morning is probably going to be way more overwhelming and dysregulating on top of the anxiety. And so, and then, how can you keep yourself regulated if they're pushing back on you and having, like whether it be like meltdown or disrespectful behavior or whatever that may be, like trying to remind yourself, like, I wonder if this is because they're worried and scared about school. And so how can you ease that transition as much as possible?
I
Like
think
I'll talk to
routine,
parents about that.
yeah, routines are really important, both bedtime, wake up time, but also thinking about like lunch schedules. What do you do in the morning? If during the summer they were able to eat breakfast in front of the TV, but during the school year you don't have the time for that. Is it time to start like, transitioning away from that?
Mm-hmm.
Like all those things are going to be important to help decrease the bumpiness of the start of the school year. How do they pick out clothes?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a
like
great
all those things
getting
are
their
things that I
backpack. Yeah.
start to, and yeah, getting your backpack. Can you put it on yourself? Shoes by yourself are these things we need to think of. Just helping your kid kind of like start to acknowledge some of those things and for you to pinpoint what might be the biggest struggle when the school year starts.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were going to daycare, right? Like
Right.
there was some flexibility in drop off time. The start of the school year, there is no flexibility. You have to be there by a certain time, or, they get tardies and other things. And so it is helpful to start thinking. I also encourage parents to like investigate when will lunch be? When will this be? Right? Because I know in some of our local schools, kids are eating lunch at like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That's a
Or
long,
Rhodes was at 1:15.
which is late, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like just thinking and helping them start to get prepared for that throughout the day. Do they get snacks? Do they get, like understanding the routine at school so you can help your kiddo know how to prep for that is going to be helpful. And these are suggestions I give parents, right? Like, not necessarily doing this as the play therapist. I'm helping parents navigate this road as they're getting ready to go back to school.
Yeah. When I also think I'll talk to parents too about like how can you have conversations about lunch and what they might want for lunch and things that they would look forward to for lunch. And then involving them in the grocery shopping, like what kind of snacks would you like? Or, what are things that are going to make you feel excited and safe? And, maybe it's like looking up the lunch calendar from the district. Which of these do you like? Which don't you like? Right? We can't guarantee like, it's probably not good. They're probably, well, maybe they do have the whole lunch schedule planned out for 25, 20 or 26, 27. But, you
Just for the
know,
month, for the
yeah.
lunch schedule per month.
And having that conversation of like, which one, these are the meals that you definitely like eating at school, but these aren't, right? My kids love on Friday to have pizza at school. And so we, and like Tuesday's cookie day.
Mhm.
And so kind of like having those conversations too.
Yeah.
You know, something else that like a lot of schools will have you know, like play dates, especially for new kids, like meet each other, like rising third graders, whatever. But something else that you can do, especially if they don't know the school that well, is a lot of times you can go play on the playground.
Or even go visit the school. They
Go
do have
visit.
open where you can, or you can schedule with, once you
Hmm.
know their teacher, you can schedule a time to come in, especially for highly anxious kids. I suggest to parents to go at least 2 or 3 times before the school year starts. Walk the routine, where they would put their stuff, who they're going to meet, all those good things going into the school year can be a helpful tool.
Hmm.
And most teachers want the school year to start off well, and so they're very willing to come in. And I don't know if any of you guys follow teachers on Facebook, but they're already in there trying to set up their classroom. They've been in there since early July and they go all out getting their classrooms ready for your kiddos to come to school. And so I'm pretty sure they would be more than willing to like, have you do a walk around or a meet and greet, know where the classroom is, right? Like get a
Hmm.
feel for where the cafeteria is, all of
Right.
those good things so kids know kind of where they're going to be in time and space.
Yeah. Where the bus stop is, if they're taking the bus. Like, is it possible? Like, is it the same bus driver from last year? Or, you know, and are there people in the neighborhood that they feel safe with that could be their buddy on the bus the first day?
The other thing I also talk with parents about this time of the year is like the after school routine, right? Like, what
Like
is,
that could be a whole new episode.
I know, like, what is the expectation as far as homework? Knowing kids have just been in school for 6 to 8 hours, they're going to need some downtime. But I think sometimes this is where the biggest pushback comes to parents. And
Mhm.
so, like, what is the expectation for kiddos? How do we start that right off the bat? And maybe it's like reading time. You know, maybe they don't have homework yet, but we read for 30 minutes every day,
Right.
right? Just to get them in that routine is also going to be helpful so that parents can prep instead of it being like a drawn out battle that I don't want to do
Mhm.
work. And I talk a lot with parents. The APA recommends, that's the American Academy of Pediatrics, they recommend an amount of homework per night. So if kids are getting inundated and have hours of homework, we should have concerns about what's going on because that if for a first grader, it should be 10 minutes of homework on top outside of reading. Reading should be 30 minutes a minimum every day, but outside of that, you know, it's 10 minutes and it's 10 minutes per grade level. So if your kiddo is having like extensive homework, you need to touch base with the teacher early on to figure out what's going on because kids do need downtime. If they're not getting the downtime, it actually can mimic ADHD behaviors and some emotional dysregulation behaviors because their systems need the ability to play.
Yes.
This is also the other thing I talk to a lot of parents about is like how many after school activities do you put your kid in,
Hmm.
right? And it really, in elementary, it should just be one, maybe two max. They should not be so scheduled outside of school time because kids do need downtime to process and they need free play throughout their day. And especially when the demands of school come on. And so just being mindful of that, even if they want to sign up for a million and one things, you'll often see more moodiness, more disrespectful behavior because they're holding on to so much that they don't get a chance to process it or release it. Right? So it comes out towards you as a parent, or it comes out at school where, yeah, they're really mismanaging behaviors and other things.
Yeah. And it's hard
It is
to,
hard
to do
because
it. Like, it's so hard. I know these things, and yet I just was talking about how I'm going to sign my kids up.
yeah.
I'm like,
No,
oh, it's time.
and it shouldn't be that. I mean, kids want to do a lot of things. It's just they
How
also
are
need downtime. So how are you adding downtime into the schedule so they get the chance to do that? And I'm very aware, and a lot of parents have shared, right? Like I'm prepping my kid to be successful later in life. So if they don't get these experiences now, when are they going to get them? Almost this rushing of their,
right
like
development? Yeah.
and I get it, right? We all want our kids to have the best things in life, and we want them to be the most prepared and have the best chances. and, right? They are also 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And how do we help, right? Like, what do we know is developmentally responsive at this time, too?
Right.
And should we be worrying at 6, 7, 8, and 9, like if they're going to get into college or
Right.
not?
Well, and also that play is a vital point for that learning and that development and that growth. And so it doesn't, I think, again, this is where it's kind of like countercultural, like doesn't mean that it's frivolous. It's actually helping them. But it means that like when giving them downtime, it's not downtime in front of the computer, downtime in front of the screen, but downtime going out in the neighborhood and playing with friends or free play where like you're not directing it, they are in charge. And that's some of the most important development mental aspects, I think, of that we need to remind ourselves of. And it's very, I think there are a lot of well-meaning parents, myself included, where, it's like if we all just held hands and stopped, it'd be okay. Right. But there's these messages that if you don't do this, then somehow you're going to be hurting your child in some way, which is not true. So,
Yeah, one of the I really love, I don't know, do you follow Rooted in Play?
yeah.
It's like I really love the messages that they send. So if people are looking for like, why is play so important, they're a wonderful resource. And their mission is to ensure that all children have regular access to child-led play opportunities. Um, but yeah, they're really good. They're on Facebook. I'm sure they're on Insta and all of the social media things, but they are a good, like a validating way to be like, okay, you're right. My kid does need this. And so I also think some of their posts are pretty funny. And so that's helpful because it's just like factual, but there's also some like satirical ways that they go about like highlighting why play is so important. And so
Yeah.
I think they're good reminders.
Yeah. Well, I think this is helpful. I think the main thing is just like recognizing that this is a routine thing maybe for us, but that it can create some anxiety and uncertainty for children. And so you may see that in their behaviors or, somatic symptoms. And so making sure that there's open communication and engagement and preparation, and as, helping kind of parents kind of develop these routines, or perhaps even helping provide them some of the ways in which they can engage with their kids can be really helpful.
So one is like you can start a calendar or a fun
Yeah.
way to do a visual calendar to count down the school days and how
Yes.
many days are left.
Yes.
Um, there's also some wonderful books about going back to school and first days of school and like the nervousness of school. So you can add that to your nightly bedtime routines, especially
Mhm.
for kindergarten, first grade parents. And then the other thing is think about rituals. What are some good rituals that can be helpful to set up? Like goodbye rituals, da da da. You can also use
Mhm.
social stories, which are like little stories that you can tell your kiddos. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode because I do really think that is helpful for kids going to school and especially those that have more like separation anxiety or just anxiety about change and other stuff so that you can kind of set up a story about the school day. And Maggie and I will talk more about
Mhm.
how to do that
Yeah.
in the next episode so that, and that's good for play therapists as well because you can help parents create those in your sessions or even have the kid help you create one. It would be a more directive session, so it would not be CCPT. We talk a lot about it in the CPRT curriculum about how you use these stories to help kids with transition. So
Mhm.
I think that's it.
No, we call them like we have a countdown, but it's how many more sleeps. So it's like four
Yeah.
more sleeps, four more,
Yes. And every,
and you
every
can do
family
those.
does it differently, so make it
Yeah.
match yours. Like I've
Yeah.
seen old school paper chains where we rip off one each day. I've seen a physical calendar, or maybe it's a jar of marbles and you move one marble over each day, right? There's all different ways to do this
Yeah.
that can be helpful. Do what is most authentically true for your family, or help families create these rituals by giving them different ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
cool.
thanks, Kristie. This is so timely and important. I feel like every time we talk, I learn something. It helps me remember.
Yeah, no, and I think, being a parent and having kids in this age group that, have sometimes struggled is also really helpful for our audience to hear, Maggie. So I'm always appreciative of you sharing, that it's even as a play therapist, it's not always easy.
It's not. I wish it was.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, just parenting is hard. And so I think the more that we can honor that their journey, and that's what we talked about last week with Dr. Line. And so I think that continues and it's something to remember. So
Yeah.
subscribe to Playful Beginnings, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can email us at info@playtherapiespace.com, or Maggie or Kristie at playtherapiespace.com. And you can also sign up, and we have newsletters and hopefully, trainings or supervision groups coming, consultation groups coming if you're interested. And of course, always let us know if there are topics or questions that we can answer. I would love to have an episode all where we answer questions from the audience.
Yay. How fun would that be?
Yeah, it would be so fun. You could like video record it and then send it to us, and then we could
Oh,
put it on
yeah.
air.
We can try to answer them.
Yeah. Well, we'll do
May
our
have an
best.
answer for you.
And maybe like we have to look it up, and we do that sometimes. So
Yeah. That's what I always say to my students. They're like, I have a question I think you might be answer. I said, I may be able to answer it. I'm not sure.
it
We'll have
depends.
to wait. Yeah, it depends. So thank you guys. Yes, please let us know if there's topics. We are starting to think about our next chapter for our podcast. We
Yeah.
just finished up diagnoses, and so
Yeah.
we're thinking about, the next chapter for our podcast. So let us know if you have an idea for us.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Kristie. Thank you.